Correct. The conflict was being squashed by Fat Joe. Irvin Jaw said, "No, we're not squashing." After I had it. The no wasn't initiated by you. I didn't start, therefore it's not good. Listen, I didn't initiate it. I don't go on with it. I don't care about it. Did you actually purchase Jaw's concert tickets? Inexpensive tickets. The tickets were reasonably priced. Okay. They were similar to StubHub. However, I did purchase the first 4. How many? How many did you purchase? Is it several $100s if you claim to have purchased the first 4 rolls? Yes, but it was only inexpensive. Inexpensive tickets. It's something to do then. J. Rule and 50 Cent recently got into a heated argument once more. Jay abruptly made the decision to spice things up by shooting shots at 50 as if we were still in 2003. Jay still acts tight about the way things used to be, even though you would think that after all these years, things would have calmed down. However, Fat Joe has now joined in, asserting that Jaw is the one who wishes to maintain the feud. And it seems that it all started when 50 knocked Jay out in Atlanta. Okay, cool. Jude, this comes after 50 was killed. I don't think you're a black kid. Jay never appears to have moved on from this. Now that Jay and 50 are trading barbs on social media, the entire situation is exploding once more. Let's dissect everything. Music. As you are all aware, 50 Cent and JR Rule have been at odds for years, and it doesn't appear that they will be getting along anytime soon. Jay started things off by flexing his tour profits and throwing serious shade on X. With the comment, "Are you all attending that Ja Rule concert?" Ja shared a montage from one of his performances. Imagine attempting to make fun of someone who is currently earning 6 figures a show while on tour. Ninjas like you cook. 50 Cent, please take notes as you have been doing. The appearance of a true performer. LOL. However, 50 Cent wasted no time in retaliating. He shared a screen grab of a news a few days later that revealed his performance at London's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on July 4th had sold out. How do you win a fight if you're fighting someone who is too dumb to know they lost? He captioned the photo. Simply strike them until they stop moving. However, others stepped in to continue the drama, so it didn't end there. The first person to relay a crazy story about 50 Cent knocking out Ja Rule in Atlanta was Tony Yayo. Cho was entering the hotel. Yayo was excellent. Okay, cool. Jew was murdered 50 years ago. You don't have my faith. That's the 5th KO for a black. Shall cheap. Giggles. Well, come on in the elevator murder, he said. Look, I'm not a rapper. This rapper is someone I recall. I was merely a passenger. This rapper, did he win all of them? You heard the 5th. Wait a moment. Wait. Is there any rap? See any counter-argument? Giggles. Claps. My phone continued to ring while I was still making calls. On my phone, I had items. Fat Joe then entered the conversation and claimed that Ja is resentful because his career was seriously harmed by his feud with 50. Joe claims that 50 did more than just disparage Ja. In the early 2000s, when Street A reputation was crucial in hip-hop, he started a full-on campaign that portrayed Murder Inc. as being soft. Joe noted that Jao's radio-friendly tunes were topping the charts. However, public opinion changed when 50 began to criticize his street persona and make fun of his fashion sense. Labels became anxious. A federal investigation was launched into Murder Inc. Jay's momentum then stalled. Ja Rule was the Drake of the turn with all the hits before 50 slowed him down, which is why Jay has a problem with Jao and 50. Additionally, Fat Joe disclosed that he made an attempt to intervene and end the feud between 50 Cent and J. Rue. Joe claims that he witnessed the feud's devastation, not only for Ja but also for New York hip-hop in general. He therefore tried very hard to break her calm. However, Irv Gotti and Ja Rule abruptly shut it down, informing Joe outright that they had no interest in peace, just when it appeared that progress was being made. I was squashing the beef, you know? The conflict was being squashed by Fat Joe. I got it. Nah, we ain't squashing shit, said Irving Jaw. Yes. I vowed to have it. Even though I don't want to mention it, I believe that 50 was saying something along the lines of, "Yo, Joe, whatever you want to do." That's what I had. Fuck that, they said when I approached them. This, and that. To give you a basic overview of how this renowned feud began, It actually began in 1999 when Ja was robbed while filming a video in Southside Jamaica, Queens. Additionally, 50 later disclosed in his memoir that one of his boys was responsible for the heist. Jay, however, saw the events completely differently. He acknowledged that there had been a heist, but he denied ever seeing 50 with the perpetrator. Furthermore, Jay said that the robbery wasn't really the true problem. He said it began when 50 Cent irritated him when the Murder Inc. team iced him out during the recording of Ja's song Murder for Life. Then 50 said, "Life's on the line." The song was obviously directed against Ja and Murder Inc., even making fun of their signature murder chant, even though he didn't specifically mention Ja by name. And that's when everything went south and 50 and Ja became physical in Atlanta. A member of 50's crew is said to have taken Ja's necklace during the altercation, and both of their chains were grabbed. Now, 50 claims that they later returned it for a Mato watch. However, Jay refuted that narrative once more, saying that 50 had nothing to do with the theft of his chain. That was 50's version of events, and he had presumably stolen your chain after someone had exchanged him a watch for it. Are you aware of what I mean? The story has been told to me. The story has been told to you. It's also foolish. Do you understand what I mean? For this reason, I think that this arguer indicates that he is skilled at what he does. I refer to him as MC Gusto, and he narrates stories. Have you ever seen CB4? CB4? Yes. I believe that's who he is in real life. When word spread that 50 was recording at the Hit Factory in New York City in March 2000, Jay and his team arrived. Things quickly got out of hand, and 50 people were stabbed. Black Child of Murder Inc. and Jay were both detained. Black Child later claimed credit for the arrest, stating it was in self-defense. However, 50 simply kept things going and never brought it up in interviews. I didn't even visit the hospital after that. That I just needed 3 stitches to treat. The small cut I had. Yes. You're back. I didn't visit, I heard the radio hearing when I got home. I visited a hospital, so I was theirs. All right, that's the day after, I said. Do you understand? There, right there, and right there. There are 2 scratches. All Ask could do is that. That's what I mean. They invariably exaggerate the situation. Naturally, though, things didn't stop there. 50 released the No Mercy, No Fear mixtape with Gunit in 2002 and inked a multi-million-dollar contract with Shady Aftermath. Wankster filled the gap, a vicious diss song directed at Murder Inc. and Jay. The song gained popularity after appearing on the soundtrack of 8 Mile and was released in 2002 on 50's No Mercy, No Fear mixtape. It was among the initial songs that contributed to 50's meteoric rise to fame. In their lyrics, 50 mocks rappers who boast about money and street life but are actually broke and soft, employ street credibility as a marketing ploy since they are unable to support their tough man image with real-world behavior. In the meantime, 50's street credibility was called into question when Irv Gotti accused them of filing an order of protection against Ja and Murder Inc. following the Hit Factory incident. Here's what Gotti neglected to mention, though. The NYPD issued the order automatically, but it was real. Furthermore, 50 didn't directly request it. Ja nonetheless went ahead and posted it online and called it 50 a rat despite this. As you are already aware, 50 was not going to tolerate that snitch talk. He responded with a vicious diss track called Back Down, which destroyed Ja's reputation and destroyed Murder Inc.'s street cred. However, 2 months later, Ja retaliated, with Loose Change going nuclear on not only 50 but also Chris Lighty, Gunit, Eminem, Haley, Dr. Dre, and Busta Rhymes. In addition to making outrageous claims about M's group and dragging M's wife into it, he accused 50 of being a snitch and made a homophobic remark about Dr. Dre. However, 50 didn't take long to reply, as he, Eminem, and Busta punched back with a savage parody called Hail Mary, which ridiculed Jay's fixation with Tupac and shredded him bar by bar. With his 5th album, Blood in My Eye, Jay attempted to change course and adopt a more aggressive, hard-hitting sound, but it didn't work out. Critics criticized the album, and fans didn't like it either. Jay never quite achieved the success of Pain is Love or The Last Temptation after that. At that point, Ja and Irv Gotti were forced to concede defeat. Do you think that, given what you've said, you could say, yes, we took a L there, in retrospect? We did indeed take an L. The problem with it, though, is that you recognize it when you're going through it. You must thus come up with ideas. However, I'll take you back to when Ro and I were in my office, right? Flex was going to play in the club, right? We were in the office. Thus, Flex performs in the club. It was such a great record. I responded, "You have a serious problem," after giving Rue a quick glance. "Was that what you said?" Of course. Of course. And you see, we're in a situation like that now. And I'm glad we can discuss it. Yes, we did take the loss. We lost. But what do you know? Individuals receive L's. The L isn't it. You do it. Of sure. You're back. I didn't go to I went home and I'm hearing the radio hearing. I went to the hospital. So they had me. I was like, all right, that's the day after. You know what I mean? Right there and right there. 2 scratches. That's all. What could do. I mean that. They always make it bigger than it is. But of course, things didn't end there. In 2002, 50 signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Shady Aftermath and dropped the No Mercy, No Fear mixtape with Gounet. That's where Wankster came in. A brutal diss track aimed at Jay and Murder Inc. The track came out in 2002 on 50's No Mercy, No Fear mixtape and gained traction after being featured on the 8 Mile soundtrack. It was one of the first tracks that helped 50 explode into the mainstream. Lyrically, 50 mocks rappers who talk about money and street life but are broke and soft in reality, use street credibility as a marketing gimmick and can't back up their tough guy persona with actual action. Meanwhile, after the Hit Factory incident, Irv Gotti accused 50 of filing an order of protection against Ja and Murder Inc. R, basically questioning 50's own street credibility. But here's the part Gotti didn't mention. The order was real, but it was issued automatically by the NYPD. And it wasn't something 50 specifically asked for. But that still didn't stop Ja from posting it online and calling 50 a rat. Now you already know 50 wasn't about to let that snitch talk slide. He fired back on Back Down, a ruthless diss track that shredded Ja's image and torched Murder Inc. His street cred. But just 2 months later, Ja fired back with Loose Change, going nuclear. Not just on 50, but on Gounet, Eminem, Haley, Dr. Dre, Busta Rhymes, and even Chris Lighty. He accused 50 of being a snitch, threw a homophobic jab at Dr. Dre, made wild accusations about M's crew, and also dragged M's wife into it. But 50 wasted no time responding, and he, Eminem, and Busta clapped back with Hail Mary, a vicious parody that mocked Jay's Tupac obsession and dismantled him bar by bar. Now Jay tried to pivot with his 5th album, Blood in My Eye, shifting to a harder, more aggressive style, but it backfired. The album was slammed by critics, and fans weren't feeling it either. And after that, Jay never really came close to the success of Pain is Love or The Last Temptation. And that's when Ja and Irv Gotti finally had to admit defeat. Do you think because you say now you could say in hindsight you could say yes, we took a L there? Yeah, we took a L. But listen, the thing about it is when you're going through it. You know, you're going through it. So you got to think of ways. But I'll take you back to we was in my office, me and Ro, right? We in the office and Flex was about to play in the club, right? So Flex plays in the club. That record was so dope. I looked at Rue like I looked at and said, yo, you have a major problem. Did you really say that? Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, now we're in such a thing. And I'm happy we can talk about it. Yeah, we took the L. We took the L. But you know what? People take L's. It's not the L. It's what you do. And if you keep swinging and keep fighting, of course, you're going to keep going. But what's interesting to me about that is why do you think he was able to do that to you? Because a lot of things surrounding that because of that plaque I told you about. Because you had all of that because you were all the way timing. Not only was we winning, we was dominating. But 50 still wasn't done. At Hot 97's Summer Jam in 2014, he trolled Ja again by performing his diss track, I Smell Pee, just to remind everyone who came out on top. And of course, Ja couldn't resist and clapped back in his memoir, Unruly, the highs and lows of becoming a man, doubling down on the old claim that 50 snitched to the feds, which led to Murder Inc.'s getting raided. But 50 denied it and kept trolling, pushing Jay to the point where he completely snapped on social media, claiming he owns 50's soul and calling him his Mao. Jay said, let's be clear, I mind my business. But for some reason, 50 Cent keeps my name in his mouth. I think he'd rather have my D in his mouth, LA Mao. But that's when 50 pulled off one of the most savage, petty moves and bought 200 tickets to Jay's concert just so the front rows would be completely empty. Did you really buy Ja Rule's tickets like seats at his concert? Cheap tickets. The tickets were very affordable. All right, they was on like stuff. But yeah, I bought the first 4. How many did you buy? If you say you bought the first 4 rolls, is that a couple hundred? Yeah. It was cheap though. It was cheap tickets, so it was something to do. Like if you don't look at me like that, then all right, man. We done for years. It's just I said, "Yo, this is the I just want you to feel like you got to reach the people back like 4 or 5 rows." What? What is this that 2 decades later? It's still this. No, I mean, it's not that big of a sacrifice for me now. I bought things that don't mean less to me, right? Right. Oh my gosh. That was fun. That was like watching it. Let me see the show and see the spaces that went through because they are reserved for someone else. They're not supposed to be safe. That's brutal. That's so brutal, man. But see, there's another layer to all this that goes beyond all these petty jokes. A lot of people believe the beef runs way deeper than rap. And rumors have swirled for years that Ja Rule may have been connected to the 2000 shooting that nearly killed 50. And while nothing was ever proven, some believe Jay and Murder Inc. had ties to Kenneth Supreme McGriff, a notorious kingpin who had beef with 50. Irv and Jay hired Supreme as a bodyguard after Supreme got out of jail. He wasn't associated with crime,